When I was 24, I was starting to think I'd figured life out. I had a good job, a decent circle of friends, and my own little routine that kept me grounded. I wasn't looking for love, and frankly, I didn't think I needed it. I had convinced myself that happiness came from within, that I didn't need anyone to complete me. I believed I could be fulfilled without ever finding the one. But life, as it often does, has a funny way of proving us wrong. It all started one evening at a friend's birthday party. I didn't want to go at first. I was tired from work and didn't feel like being around a crowd of people, but my best friend Alyssa insisted. "It's just one night, you need to get out," she said, practically dragging me to the event. And that's where I met him. His name was Mark. I remember everything about that night, the way he walked into the room, the way his laugh filled the space, how effortlessly he seemed to command attention without even trying. He wasn't tall, but there was something magnetic about him. He had an easy smile and eyes that seemed to hold a secret, like he knew more about the world than most people did. At first, we didn't talk much. He was standing across the room from me, but every now and then our eyes would meet, and I'd look away quickly, flustered. I wasn't used to feeling that way, like someone could see through me, read the thoughts swirling in my head. I wasn't used to this kind of connection. It wasn't until later in the night that we finally spoke. I was at the bar waiting for my turn to order, and suddenly he was there beside me. "I never thought I'd see you here," he said, his voice smooth and casual, but I could tell he was trying to break the ice. I smiled, feeling slightly awkward but intrigued. I wasn't planning on coming, I admitted, but here I am. "Lucky for me," he replied, his grin widening. And that was how it began. Our first conversation, brief but enough to ignite something inside me. We talked for hours, wandering through the night, finding out everything we could about each other. I learned that Mark was passionate about music, had recently moved back to town after a few years of living abroad, and loved reading, especially books about history and human nature. It was amazing how quickly we connected. We both had similar ideas about life, about people, and even about the future. As the night came to a close, I found myself hoping for a moment alone with him, something deeper than the surface-level conversation we had shared. And when the party was winding down and people started heading home, he walked me to my car. Before I could even think about it, he leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from my face, and kissed me. It was a slow, soft kiss, one of those moments that feels like time stands still. When he pulled away, he looked at me with an intensity I had never seen before. "I didn't expect that," he murmured, his lips still close to mine. "I didn't either," I whispered back, heart racing. But deep down, I knew. I wanted more. In the days that followed, we couldn't stop thinking about each other. We sent texts, exchanged calls, and spent hours talking about anything and everything. Mark made me feel like I was the only person in the world when we were together. His words seemed to resonate deep within me, as though he was unlocking parts of me I had never explored. The more I got to know him, the more I found myself falling, and I told myself not to. I didn't want to need anyone. I was independent, and I prided myself on being able to stand on my own 2 feet, but love has a way of sneaking up on you. Mark was different. There was no rush with him. He didn't demand anything from me, but he always gave me his full attention when we were together. He asked questions that made me think, questions that made me see the world differently. He challenged me. But as we got closer, the cracks began to show. Mark wasn't perfect. No one is. He had his own set of flaws, the kind of flaws that no one talks about in the beginning. He had a past that he rarely spoke about, one that seemed to linger behind his eyes. And though he was open with me, there were moments when he would pull away, when I could sense he wasn't fully letting me in. It wasn't long before I realized that Mark had baggage, emotional baggage that he wasn't ready to unpack. And that's when the conflict started. I wanted more than just casual dates and stolen moments. I wanted a real relationship, something that could last. But Mark was hesitant. His past, full of mistakes, regrets, and broken relationships, held him back from being fully present with me. A month into our relationship, I started noticing how the mood between us began to shift. Mark became distant. He still texted, still called, but when we were together, I could feel the tension. He would cancel plans at the last minute, avoid serious conversations, and sometimes he would get quiet, almost as if he were retreating into himself. I started to question everything. Was this just a fling to him? Was I just another woman who had caught his attention for a while before he moved on? My doubts started to creep in, and I couldn't shake them. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I asked him what was going on. I needed answers. He was quiet for a long time, and I could see how conflicted he was. Finally, he looked at me with those piercing eyes and said, "I'm scared. I'm scared of loving someone, scared of failing again. My past has a way of catching up with me, and I don't want to drag you into that mess." It was the truth I had been avoiding for so long. Mark was afraid of falling in love because he had been hurt before. Betrayed, abandoned, and left with a heart full of scars. He didn't want to open up again, didn't want to risk losing me like he had lost others in the past. I felt my heart break in that moment, not because of the rejection, but because I understood. Love wasn't just about connection. It was about trust, vulnerability, and healing from past wounds. For the next few weeks, things were strained between us. I tried to be patient, to give him the space he needed, but it was hard. I loved him, and I wanted him to know that he didn't have to be perfect. I didn't need him to be flawless. I needed him to be honest with me. One evening, after another one of those long conversations where everything felt like it was on the edge of falling apart, Mark turned to me and said, "I don't know if I'm ready to love you the way you deserve to be loved. I don't know if I'm ready to be the person you need." I knew then that it was time for me to make a choice. I couldn't force him to be something he wasn't ready to be. I couldn't fix him. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't keep holding on to someone who wasn't willing to meet me halfway. I couldn't keep waiting for him to open up when he wasn't ready to. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to walk away. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the right thing. Mark needed time to heal on his own. He needed to face his past before he could move forward. Walking away from Mark was one of the hardest decisions of my life, but it taught me something important. Love cannot be rushed. It cannot be forced. No matter how strong the connection, no matter how deep the feelings, both people have to be ready to give and receive love in a healthy, mutual way. In the months that followed, I focused on myself. I learned how to love without depending on someone else for my happiness. I realized that true love is not about being in a relationship. It's about understanding yourself, being comfortable with who you are, and knowing that you deserve the best. Mark and I stayed in touch, but we were never the same. I loved him, but I knew it was time for us both to move on.